Hello and welcome back to the Anfield Edition podcast. My name is Owen and joining me today we have Ty, so say hello Ty.
Hi lads.
And we also have Inverter, so say hello mate.
Hi everyone.
So these podcasts are released twice a week on Fridays and Mondays, so follow at Anfield Edition to be notified when they go live. Today we are talking transfers. Now we're recording on deadline day as we speak, so if anything breaks during our recording we'll be sure to let you know, but let's be honest, the chances of that are pretty slim at this point. So just going on to the podcast now, one deal we know has been secured is Naby Keita. Now this actually broke 2 days ago now, so it's, not old news, but we know we've still got that in the bag. He'll arrive in July 2018 after an agreement was made with Leipzig for a £52 million deal. We finally got our man, and for one of the most promising young midfielders in the world, it's looking like an absolute steal in this modern market, isn't it, Inverter?
Well, yeah, a few days ago, it looked like it was going to start a domino effect, and Keita signing, then Lemar and Van Dijk. Obviously, it hasn't quite panned out like that, but I don't think we should overlook the Keita transfer. It's a great bit of business, especially if you've got to take inflation into account. Last season, 89 million was a shock to the whole transfer world, really, with Pogba. Now, it's a 200 million transfer next season. Who knows? It might be a 350 million transfer. So, taking that into account, yeah, definitely great deal. But I also think we need players now. So, you can get excited about it, but to a certain extent. So, yeah, world-class player. But I'm still overall gutted because I do think we needed that world-class sentiment this season. But fair enough to negotiators for sorting out a deal for him, yeah.
You got anything to add on that, Ty? Obviously, we had the 66 million bid rejected to get him in this season. But, Leipzig are willing to give us him for 52 million just, a season down the line. So what did you think on that?
Yeah, I think it was a really clever move, to be honest with you. Obviously, the fact that we were willing to bid between 60, 70 million speaks volumes. The fact that we've made an early move for him next year, it just shows that that's the kind of move that, if Bayern Munich done that or Barcelona or Real Madrid done that, they'd be getting loaded for it, wouldn't they? So I think it's a really clever move. We paid an extra, 3 or 4 million just to secure the deal.
I think it was early. 8 million on top of the release clause, wasn't it?
I thought it was free.
Then. So if you consider that, you said, the fear was previously that if we didn't get Keita this window, that everyone's going to become sniffing for him only. Bayern Munich will come in for him and so on and so on. So to pay that extra few mil to make sure it goes through, I'm happy with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. He's only 22 years of age as well. He completed the most take-ons out of anyone in the league last season in Bundesliga and across Europe's top 5 leagues. It's one of those stats that they don't really grab the headlines, but it's actually something that you can really appreciate when you watch a player. When you see that they've got the pace and the ability to take the ball round a defender, it's something, that's valued very highly in the Premier League at least.
Yeah, I think it backs us up nicely as well because we don't know what's going to happen with Emre Can yet. So if he doesn't sign that contract, then he's going to be on his way out to Juve next year. So at least we know we've already got that cover in place.
Yeah, it waits to be seen whether Keita is a Coutinho replacement or not. I've already spoken about his ability on the ball and his pace driving forward. What other attributes will Keita bring to this Liverpool side, Ty, and also the Klopp revolution in general?
Well, he's more of a box-to-box player, I think. I think early on when we were first linked with him, a lot of fans thought he was a Kante type of player, defensive midfielder. But from watching him and how he's appeared for Leipzig as well, he's definitely a box-to-box. He's up and down. What did you just say about his take-ons, was it? Is that what you mentioned?
Most take-ons completed across Europe's top 5 leagues. So just picking the ball up and taking it literally past a defender.
On top of that, he also had the most ball recoveries than any other outfield player. And I think on top of that, he got more dribbles than any other player apart from Borussia Dortmund's Dembele. Obviously, I know he's gone to Barca now, but so more dribbles than anyone else apart from him and most ball recoveries as well. So it's not bad either.
Tell you what, I bet Squawka absolutely love him, don't they? Squawka stats absolutely love Keita. It's so obvious.
Be interesting to see how it compares to Coutinho in terms of take-ons, because I thought he'd be one of the top in Europe. Surely, if take-ons, that's all he seems to do. But if Keita's even better than that, maybe he is a good replacement. And we've seen that he can shoot from distance as well from his highlight reel.
I was going to say YouTube highlights. Just look at him. It's just like he picks the ball up at the halfway line, he just runs. It's class, to be fair. I love watching him play. On YouTube highlight reels, not matches, because I'm a bit uneducated when it comes to that. But yeah,
I try to stay away from highlight reels because it makes people Julian Lescott look world class. So.
I thought you were going to say Johnny Evans.
And him.
And then Man City and Arsenal come sweeping in. You know, Johnny Evans, 50 million. There you go.
It's just all turned into a joke.
Yeah,
But yeah, he would just following on. He would fit in nicely, I think. Leipzig already play a high press, don't they? So we would be used to that. It would be a seamless transition if he'd come in. He's quick. He's got the stamina, and Inverter just touched on it. Then he's obviously scored from range. He can dribble past players. I think you probably would have seen it then on the highlight reel where he dribbled about 4 or 5 players, took around the keeper and slotted it in. So it looks like he's got the lot, but we need to see if we can do that in the Premier League.
Like Coutinho, but likes to carry on and score.
I was going to say, another player that sort of fits into the high press model is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Obviously, he's joined us now for 40 million. I think that video of him doing the rounds actually on Twitter, isn't it? Where he sort of runs up to the Bayern Munich defenders and has an absolute strough on when no one presses with him. So I think Klopp will appreciate that at the least. But £40 million for Chamberlain. He turned down Chelsea. And most notably, you were offering him about 220 grand a week, was it? Something like that?
Yeah, 220. Arsenal 180. And apparently he's on, 120 for us. So
yeah. I mean,
it's nice to see it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's nice to see it's not all about the money for a change.
The football coming first. You know, you can always appreciate that. Where do you see him fitting into the side, though, Inverter? So obviously, he's expressed a desire to play centrally, but, you know, he's so versatile, he could play anywhere on the pitch, realistically.
Yeah, as you say, I think his versatility was the main attraction for Klopp, and I'm not sure if he sees him as a starter. The only alteration to the starting 11 I see at the moment is maybe Wijnaldum coming out. But other than that, I don't think he will be starting at the moment. Definitely not. Maybe after he goes for like a few weeks of training sessions, then he'll start to ease him in slowly. Because as you can see with Robertson, despite playing one game and being man of the match, he's still not starting. So I think Klopp likes to sort of wait with his transfers, which is why he ideally wants to get all the signings done before pre-season started, so then he can start them in the Premier League. But obviously, didn't quite turn out like that. But yeah, as you say, he's been playing right wing back for Arsenal, so can see him potentially playing right back because currently Trent Alexander-Arnold obviously played centre mid, right mid earlier on in his career, so he could probably play a similar role, and maybe that playing at right wing back for Arsenal kind of gave him the experience of a bit of defender as well. So we will miss out on that side of it as well. And obviously going forward, it'd be great.
Yeah. What do you both think of the 40 million though? I think it's a little bit excessive for a player who's got 1 year left, to be honest with you.
Is it 40 million? Is it?
Well, 35, I think he'll go up to 40 with add-ons.
I mean, looking around at the prices being quoted, obviously Gylfi Sigurdsson, 50 million, quite a lot of money. Obviously a decent player statistically and so on, but I think inflation is just crazy. 30 million is just the going rate nowadays, so paying a bit over that is not too excessive in my opinion.
I mean,
you're bearing in mind we could have got him for free as well.
Yeah, it's not that though. It's taking it off a rival, isn't it? A rival's obviously going to demand more money for a player, so it's never representative of the player's true value. And like Inverter said, the inflation in the market as well. I think the comparison to Sigurdsson, me and Inverter were actually talking about this before, saying he scored more goals Sigurdsson last season than Ox has in his whole Arsenal career, in the Premier League at least, because his game time has been limited more to cup competitions. I could see him scoring more goals for Liverpool if he plays centrally, but he's not going to be, like I said, he's not going to be a mainstay in the side. He's not a key role like Van Dijk or Lemar could have been for us.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that we don't need goals, do we? Our front three score loads of goals. We'll have Coutinho, hopefully have Coutinho, with 12 to 15 Premier League goals. So I think Ox just needs to offer that sort of press, just linking up the play. A bit like Wijnaldum, He doesn't score that many goals, but he does the unnoticed things. So,
it's more of an Adam Lallana type signing. I'm not sure.
Well.
You could make that comparison, certainly. He come in for, 25 million at the time. Before he'd even kicked the ball, he's getting criticism for saying we've overspent on him. But look how that turned out. Now I feel like we're really missing him in that side, and I'd love to see him come back in, despite the injury. It's a bit annoying, and it's definitely dented the options within the side. At least we haven't forced to start with the midfield three every week. That we can't change, and there's no versatility there. And I think that's part of the reason we've gone in for Ox, is the fact that does provide us short term options of versatility, especially for Champions League games where we're going to need that rotation in there.
I think one thing he does offer differently, obviously, if he does want to play in centre mid, is speed. Because Henderson, Chan, Lallana even, or Wijnaldum, none of them are actually rapid. He would be the only centre midfielder we've got with absolute pace. So he'll offer something a little bit different to what we've already got, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it'd be good off the bench as well, won't he? Just once Mane or Salah get tired, obviously within the sprint or game, we'll be able to stick him on and sort of replace that pace, which is maybe one of the reasons why we did offer him.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to look at the performance against Arsenal just briefly. Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously starring for Arsenal in that. What proved to be his last game for them. He wasn't actually particularly that great. I didn't watch the full game. Just to say, I did watch the highlights and the analysis on Match of the Day as I was out at Reading, but he was playing at fullback and he didn't look that aware. That's something that scared me, and I think under Klopp obviously he's going to improve, but that's one thing that really, I was thinking that's not something you want to be seeing when a player doesn't look tactically aware, especially going into a Klopp side where that's so important. What were your thoughts on that, Ty?
I think it's a domino effect, though. The whole Arsenal team were terrible that day. So you can't really pick out one player who was poor because no one in that Arsenal shirt performed on the day. And bear in mind, you've got one of the best attacking sides in the Premier League going at them as well. So, Ramsey was out of position, Chamberlain was out of position. I think that completely changes. Obviously, the one thing that was mentioned already with Chamberlain coming to Liverpool is that Klopp is probably one of the managers that'll take him up a level. So he'll have no choice but to become tactically astute with us because he's very, very demanding. I think there's a lot of players that hide in that Arsenal team, especially when Sanchez is on form. How often have we seen Ozil go missing? There's plenty of players that go missing in that Arsenal team, and I don't think you get a chance to do that in the Liverpool team.
It's also important to note that he's playing at right wing back as well. He's up against Sadio Mane, who's in the team of the year last season. One of the best wingers in the Premier League, and he's not playing in his position, so I sort of think that's understandable. Yeah. Obviously, the promise he was given at Liverpool was that he will be playing at centre mid for the majority of the time, but then maybe filling in when someone's injured in the other positions due to this versatility that he's got. But I don't think that happens at centre mid. I don't think he'd get overrun to that extent that we saw on the weekend centrally, because obviously we've got Henderson behind him, so maybe that'll give him more of an ability to sort of play a free role and go forward and track back as well.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to see him actually played centrally in a position he prefers. We've obviously seen players in the past, for Liverpool and other clubs, where they've expressed a desire, to play a certain position. They've really gone on and thrived. So it'd be nice to see him given time in a role he really wants. And we've got the England games to look forward to, albeit against like Malta, I think is one of them. The World Cup qualifiers, he might, feature in one of those at least, so we can get a good look at him there, as a proper Liverpool player. But amongst the transfers and everything, it's worth saying how good we were against Arsenal, wasn't it, at the weekend? That front three, my God, that is going to be something to watch this season, definitely, isn't it?
Frightening going forward. And again, we've said it for a long time. We haven't got any issues going forward. We create plenty of chances. We score a lot of goals. It's defensively is where our issues are, and that's why I'm kind of still praying now that something happens in the next 2 hours of this transfer window.
I mean, it's not looking very likely now, is it, Ty? It's been quite a maddening last few days for Liverpool fans, from following club cars to tracking plane flights. It's no wonder they call it silly season, to be honest. This is specifically in relation to Virgil van Dijk, who's touched on, where the closeness of this transfer blows hot and cold by the hour. But in the last, since 8 o'clock, it's been announced that he will stay at Southampton. It was such a deflating end to what, promised to be quite a, going down to the wire transfer almost.
Yeah, I mean, I called it. I kind of thought there was going to be a bit of an anticlimax of the day. I was trying to stay positive, but it's just very, very FSG, to be honest with you. I've always said all along, actually, I haven't swayed for them or swayed against them, but after seeing constantly year after year the net spend compared to your Chelsea's, your Man Cities, and everything, has just gone on for too long, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure Inverter's got a lot more to say on that.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating, isn't it? Because if you look at Chelsea, they arguably needed a centre-back, they needed a centre-mid. They go and buy Louise, then Kante, and they win the league. And sometimes it really is as simple as that. I do think if we got Van Dijk, we'd definitely be contenders, because obviously set pieces defending so far is where we are worse than the opponents in that sort of aspect. As Ty says, defensively, absolutely no problem. Some forwards might have been nice, and we got them. We got Salah, who is obviously required is when Mane was injured. Sort of the season just declined after that. But I just don't understand how FSG could have came out of this window. Obviously, it's still not finished. Premature to say this, but looking very likely without a centre back. It's just astonishing, seeing as how much we do actually need that centre back to. We're in the Champions League as well. We were speaking to everyone before. If Lovren or Matip get injured, we've got Klavan playing at centre back, an Estonian who's been playing his whole career in God knows where, the Bundesliga, Augsburg. So it's really worrying, to be honest.
Is very frustrating, I think, to be a Liverpool fan in this time. I think Klopp has to take some of the blame for it. It's understood that he only saw Van Dijk as the only option for Liverpool, and I think that is quite narrow-minded of him not to identify any alternatives when there were so many out there. I think me and Inverter were speaking before the podcast saying, Howard has gone to Juventus for 15 million euros. Bonucci's gone to AC Milan for 35 million. That's two very good quality centre-backs. They're experienced. That's something we needed to add to that back line as well. Howard specifically, Inverter, I remember you pointed out a reason why he might be, the one to bring in, given his time at Schalke.
Yeah, he'll have that connection with Matip, won't he? So you wouldn't have to sort of gel them together for too long. And like you say, 15 million euros, it's a nothing in this transfer window. You've also got Bonucci going for 40 million euros, 30 million euros. And not being funny, but he's 3 times the player that Van Dijk is. Just watching him, he's arguably the best centre-back on the planet. Yeah. So I just don't understand why Liverpool aren't capable of thinking outside the box. They've just sort of set their sights on Van Dijk, who's incredibly overpriced. Not even necessarily the best defender in the league, and he's got a price tag that surpasses Alderweireld's alleged release clause 3 times, because there's an Alderweireld apparently got a 30 million release clause, and then there's 75 million being quoted for Van Dijk. So
Jesus,
I just think it's crazy. I would be willing to pay it for Van Dijk, obviously, but nevertheless, it's still incredibly inflated despite the already inflated markets. And Bonucci's a perfect example of that, really.
This is Saints, because they remained adamant that the player wasn't for sale the whole summer, didn't they? At any price, they consistently stated to us that he isn't for sale, and they wouldn't let him. And now they're sort of forced to either let him rot in the stands, or he will end up playing for them despite handing in that transfer request.
He's going to have to play.
Yeah, Matt Letizia said on Twitter that he'll definitely play by Christmas when someone asked him. So
yeah,
I can't see them having a 75 million player on the bench or on the stands.
No chance. I mean, the thing that's pissed me off the most about that is it was a done deal. The Van Dijk should have been a Liverpool player 2 months ago. It was only the fact that some idiot at the club leaked the news, which kind of weakened Southampton's hand in the deal. Which is why it didn't go ahead. We had to come out with a pathetic apology. But by all means, from what we've seen before, it was done. It was actually done and agreed and so on. So obviously we just, somewhere along the line, pissed Southampton off for it to all go pear-shaped.
It's reminiscent of Coutinho, isn't it? Speaking of him, he's gone to the Brazil training session. No issues whatsoever. No back problem. No illness. He showed a complete lack of professionalism, in my opinion. It remains to be seen whether he will stay or go, but put yourself in the club's position. Is it worth keeping an unhappy player at the club, especially when we could get £150 million for him? I know now we aren't bringing in Lemar and Van Dijk, and that does mean that it is, in my opinion, we should hold on to him. But if we'd made those transfers, could you have seen him leaving, Ty?
I think potentially, yeah. And I see it with 2 ways. One, we would have brought in kind of like for like. Lemar can play out wide as well, as can continue to, but he's a bit more of a skill. Well, I wouldn't say skillful. They're both obviously very skillful, but very quick player, Lemar. So he could have filled in 2 positions. But in terms of bringing Lemar, and if we got Van Dijk in, gone a long way to strengthening the squad. I think it would have been a chance for Coutinho to leave if the club kind of just thought, right, it was 140 mil, we could have put in our pockets. I think he could have left, but not only that, as what we touched on earlier, the fact that FSG are very one in, one out. The net spend is it's not a myth anymore at all. It's obviously that's what they do. They don't invest their own money. We have to sell players to buy, and that's what's kind of led me to believe that. I don't know. They're in it for their own sakes, aren't they? It's all about investment and building the club up, making it a valuable asset, and he'll cash out eventually.
Yeah, they're sitting on a 1.2 billion assets, aren't they, after buying a club for 300 million. And
Yeah.
I think from the very start, to me, it was quite obvious anyway that we only get Lemar if Coutinho leaves, because they're not the type of owners who'll spend 90 million on Lemar and 75 million on Van Dijk and have a net spend of like 200 million. I mean, so far they've averaged 10 million through the 7 million range, so that just doesn't happen. You don't go from a 10 million average to 200. So I just think it was just like they were leaking news to the media just in case Coutinho leaves, and then if he did leave, we'd sign them players and everyone would be happy. But I think that was the plan since the very start.
Do you reckon the spending spree would have been sanctioned by the sale of Coutinho? I almost said Cantinho. That would have really thrown things at the pram. But yeah, do you reckon it was down to the fact that we would have gone and signed those players should we have sold him, or do you think that genuinely we have missed out on those targets?
I don't see how, though. I don't see how we could have missed out, because obviously, unless it's all bullshit, it was reported that we had 175 million to spend. So what, Lemar, Monaco come out and said they wanted 92 or 90 million pounds for him, and Van Dijk somewhere between 70 and 80. So if they're saying that we had that money to spend, regardless of whether Coutinho goes or not, if Coutinho doesn't go this year, he's going next year. So they've got 140 million in the pocket one way or another.
Yeah.
So I can't see why we didn't.
200 million war chest, aren't we? And
Exactly.
If they're willing to
I can't see
spend
why.
Monaco name a price, why the hell aren't we signing them? They know Coutinho's going to leave next summer. Price is going to inflate even more next summer. Lemar will be worth 150 million and not 90 million next summer potentially. So I don't see why we don't just finally do a ballsy move. We haven't done one for years, and it's just frustrating because, like we said before, it's the difference between the Premier League and the top four, really.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that Arsenal had their bid accepted by Monaco, £92 million was accepted by Monaco, and literally the player himself has gone out and said, I don't want to play for Arsenal, I want to play for Liverpool, and we still haven't got there. So baffles me.
And it's exactly the same with Van Dijk, isn't he? He's handed in a transfer request. He hasn't been training with the squad. He's went to extreme measures to join Liverpool, and we haven't even fucking bid for him. It's just so annoying. I mean, yeah, maybe we could get investigated further. Personally, I don't think we will. I think that's a load of bollocks, but potentially we could. But just go for it. What could happen? You know, we've got a few hours left in the transfer window. Just put 80 million in for him. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I think Thomas Lemar was the surprise inclusion in our plans. We didn't really hear much about him linked to Liverpool since the last 2 days. He was always seen to be Arsenal bound, but I think since we qualified for the Champions League, that's increased the calibre of player we can go for. So just looking at Lemar himself, he gunned the club to the first league win in 17 years, 20 goal contributions in that just in the league alone. Liverpool ended their interest in Lemar as the clubs failed to come to an agreement, like you said, of £92 million. And you just think, surely that would have been worth at least a punt, with the modern market and how much money the club's bringing in. Was that not worth going for, Ty?
100%. I wish I'd never heard his name linked with us, to be honest with you, because before the transfer window, if we had said, right, Salah, Ox, Van Dijk, I think 90% of fans would have been happy with that. It's just the fact that we got Champions League football confirmed, and all of a sudden Thomas Lemar's come up. We've just battered Arsenal, and now we're about to get their number one target. Everyone was buzzing, but Arsenal have come out and tried to bid for him. They accepted it. He said no. It should technically leave Liverpool there just to get. He's there for the taking, and we've still somehow come up short with nothing to show for it. Pisses me off.
There's only one place to point the finger, isn't there, Inverter?
Yeah, well, definitely. I've said it before on this podcast and previous podcasts. We've all said that we know who's to blame. It's FSG. Like Ty said, they've accepted the bid. We are allegedly interested in him. We're ready to go to extreme measures to sign him. And now they've named the price and we've not bid for him. So it's just an annoying situation. But one thing that will sound like a personal point of view before the whole Thomas Lemar links, I would have been incredibly satisfied with Oxlade-Chamberlain. Like we've already mentioned, I think he's a good player, but then as soon as I heard Thomas Lemar, I think just the difference in calibre of player that there is between the two, despite Ox being well suited to Liverpool and Klopp's whole philosophy. Just watching Thomas Lemar last season Monaco. I was just mesmerised by his football sometimes. Bernardo Silva on either flank for Monaco, just turning up Manchester City, Borussia Dortmund and other teams. It was just sublime to watch. Just sort of reminiscent of Coutinho, but out wide as well, which made me think that them two in the same team definitely would have made us serious title contenders due to the similarity.
Just scored a wonder goal for France. Sorry to interrupt you.
Breaking news.
Apparently he's just scored an absolute belter. Just to rub salt into the wound. Sorry to interrupt you there, but if you want to continue, but I just thought I had to bring it up.
Nah, that's just made me feel worse, if anything. I think we can conclude that answer there.
The annoying thing about it is, I mean, Inverter just said it there, you would have been happy before his name was mentioned, but that's where the mindset changes, see? Is why should we be happy with Oxlade-Chamberlain when we've just got Champions League football? This is what happened before. We got Champions League football. We brought in fucking Balotelli. Look how that went. If we got Lemar, right, don't get me wrong, some people might have said, right, if Coutinho, Salah, Mane, Firmino fit, where does he play? He'll play. He'll come into the squad. We've got Champions League football, Premier League football, cup games, and so on and so on. You can keep players fresh. Like, why aren't we doing that? Chelsea have done it. Chelsea have brought Bakayoko. He's on the bench. Fabregas has come back into the team. They can bring Willian or whoever, Pedro off the bench. Man City have got 2 fucking first 11s. Basically, they can afford to leave Aguero on the bench. If we want to compete with them and not just scrap for top 4, that's what we need to do. You need to have quality on the bench. How many times have we looked at our bench and we've got 3 18-year-olds on there? We've got Champions League football. Origi's just gone, and we just authorised Ken to go on loan as well. So in terms of wingers, who have we got now? Because I know, don't get me wrong, Sturridge can play out wide, but he's not quick anymore. So we've now got Sturridge and Solanke on the bench. We've got no pace. If Mane or Salah, like we've said already, gets injured, we're fucked. We're back to square one. Yeah, whereas you've got Coutinho and Lemar in team. Everyone can rotate in then. We can put Coutinho in the front 3, you can put Lemar in the top 3, and so on. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense. We could have made a statement there and had a quality bench. We look at our first 11. Our first 11's been strong for the last couple of years. Outside that's where we've struggled. But you could have had the likes of Lemar, Sturridge, Solanke on the bench in terms of front options going forward. Lallana would be in the mix in there. You look at that and then you could say, right, we've got a couple of match winners now from the bench. We haven't been able to do that, and we still can't by the looks of it.
Yeah, now that you point that outside, we seriously just got rid of every winger we potentially had. It's just Ben Woodburn left, and nothing fun about the moment. He's not Liverpool standard. So
not yet.
That really is worrying. Ojo went on loan, Origi today. So it almost made you think that Lemar is looking more and more likely with all these outgoings, but I don't know whether this is Klopp or this negotiating teams looking for extra money. It's just a baffling situation. The whole transfer window's just gone to shit in the last day, really.
I mean, had we signed Lemar, we would have been one of the best attacking sides in the league, in my opinion. There'd be no doubt. Like, looking at the front 4, what would have happened? We'd have Lemar, would have been on the Salah's playing right side, have Lemar on the left, Mane down the middle, and Firmino in behind. Like, can you imagine the potential of that going into the Champions League, going for the title? Like, we're already one of the best attacking sides in the league. We've made that clear from our first few games. But, you know, Lemar would have been there for depth should we need to, or he would have, gone straight into that first 11. I mean, that would have been the title there. Like, that would have been the statement of intent we needed to go on and try and push for that title.
Yeah, it's just having an extra world-class player on the pitch, isn't it? We've got Coutinho, Mane, Salah, Firmino, and with another player in the works, he really would have made a difference wherever he's playing. It's in centre mid or on the left or wherever. But the front 3 sort of interchange so much that I don't think it matters where on paper they play, because many times in the game you see Salah or Mane playing up front, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. It's probably just worth rounding up our outgoings for the end of the season. So we've got Mamadou Sakho, he's gone to Palace, I think £26 million. Divock Origi's gone for a £6 million loan to Wolfsburg. Ryan Kent's gone to Freiburg. Ojo's Fulham. We've had Lucas leave at the start of the season. We haven't brought in the right amount of replacements for these players, have we, Ty?
Not if you want to compete on all fronts, mate. Not at all. I said we've got. If you want, the difference is with the likes of Van Dijk and Lemar, you go from top 4 challenge to a title challenge in my eyes, in my opinion, because Van Dijk would fill a huge hole in the problems we got in defence, and Lemar, like we said already, would have added amazing depth for us going forward. So I just think we're 1 or 2 injuries away from struggling all over again. So
it's doom and gloom really for us, isn't it? Have you got anything to add in, Berta?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's exactly the same as what happened last season, isn't it? Mane got injured and then it all went downhill from there. Exactly the same can be applied to this season. If Salah and Mane get injured, we've got Sturridge will play up front, and then Firmino gets pushed out wide in that sort of system. Firmino's not half as effective out wide as he is up front. Sturridge doesn't have the legs to last the full game. Me and Owen have said before the podcast that he's best coming on off the bench when his fitness levels are at 100%, whereas everyone else on the pitch is at 50, 60. Then he can show us natural ability and sort of change the game. But so far, what I've seen, especially against Palace, he was just incredibly ineffective from the start of the game. So it really is worrying, and the only sort of positions that we can afford to get 1 or 2 injuries in is the midfield. We've got some depth in that, but the defence and the whole front line, we're just completely screwed if there's any injuries at all. And we still got a few hours to transfer window. It's just worrying that we really haven't acted upon this one. It's so clear to the whole fan base. However, somehow the negotiating team or whether it's Klopp who can't see this. I'd love to know what the logic, what the thinking is behind the whole thing. It's baffling, as I said before.
I literally did have visions of like us losing our heads on here in the middle of the podcast with like breaking news coming through. And all I'm seeing is fucking Johnny Evans is no longer going to Man City. Fucking depressed. And like you just said, and Lamar's just scored a wonder goal for France.
Yeah, I've just seen that and it's made me very depressed.
Have you seen the goal in Berta?
Yeah, it just drills it from outside the box.
Left foot volley. Right in the top corner. Oh, it just makes me want to cry.
Decent.
Well, I think that's all we've got time for today, lads. Unless you've got anything else to add, spout your views. Go on.
No, just go and cry with pillow now.
Right, so we'll actually be back next week with an FSG debate, hopefully. Fingers crossed if we can get that one out for you. As it is international break, so we won't have any, LFC games to report on, unfortunately, and the transfer window's rounded up. So sometime next week, expect the FSG debate to be on the Anfield Edition Twitter. So where can the listeners find you off the podcast, lads?
Go on, Ty.
My Anfield Edition one is Ty_talks LFC, and my personal handle is Tyrone_PT.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ty for his dissertation on that, and my Twitter handle is @invertibility.
Yeah, so be sure to give them a follow. Once again, follow @Anfield Edition for updates on when the podcast is released. Pleasure talking to you, lads, as always, and thank God the window's over now, to be honest. I've had enough. I'm tired.
Owen, what's your handle, though? You haven't shouted out your own handle, pal.
I don't need to shout myself out, Ty. I'm already famous. No, my handle is @OwenZonal if you want to give me a follow. Ty gave, some abuse about me being a United fan. I can confirm that is not true, and that is the only announcement we'll be getting tonight, apparently.
Please follow him. He needs to get past the 150 follower mark.
Oi! Can't drop the follower mark at the end of the podcast. That's just rude.
Strokes. Absolute strokes. Same as our deadline day. Fucking struggling.
I don't know why we're doing a podcast with that one time. We're the 1,000 plus club.
Oh, come on.
Might have to reassess the situation for the next podcast.
Am I getting the boot, lads? Is this what's happening now? This is rude. Right, so say goodbye, Ty.
Cheers, guys.
Say
Thanks for
goodbye,
listening,
everyone. I'm not getting either of you back on again. I've had enough. And it's bye from me as well.